You are welcome to this edition of Literature and Art. This YouTube channel is basically for reviewing different works of literature and arts. And this edition will be considering a book titled Wuthering Heights by Bronte. We can consider this novel, Wuthering Heights, as an English literature. I'm sure you must be familiar of the difference between English literature and literature in English. However, I would like to explain it again. Literature in English is literature written in English language from any part of the world, be it Nigeria, South Africa, Japan, China, Pakistan. As long as it is written in English language, it will be classified as literature in English, because it is a literature that is written in English. However, when you talk about English literature, it is the literature of the English people. So, works that are produced under English literature are works that are produced by people who are the main speakers of English language. People like the Britons, the Scotland, New Zealand, Welsh, and so on like that. They are the original speakers of English language. So the literatures that come out of these countries, be it prose, drama, or poetry, is referred or classified under English literature. It is the literature of English people. So we'll classify Wuthering Heights as English or under English literature because Bronte is a Briton. And this novel was written in 1847 during the Victorian age. It's called Victorian age because the period is named after the queen at that time, Queen Victoria. And we'll be considering some characteristic of this period as it plays out in the novel. Getting foundation of the background of a novel helps us to further understand that novel, because every work of art talks about the interaction between individuals, and that those individuals live in a society. They act the attitude of the society. They carry the values, the character, the culture of that society at that particular time. The issues that are important to them in that society at that particular time will reflect in those literary work. For example, the issue that is important to Nigeria before independence is different from the issues that are important to Nigeria at this present time. So a novel that will be written before Nigeria got independence, you have to study the setting, the situation of Nigeria at that time. When you read the novel or you read the play, you will see that it carries the values, the culture, the characteristic, the issues of that period in that novel. Same with the novel that is written now in Nigeria. It will carry issues that Nigeria is grappling with now. Issues of subsidy, issue of bad road, bad governance, poor electricity supply, and so on like that. So this novel Wuthering Heights is written in the Victorian age. So we are going to consider certain characteristics of the Victorian age. You will see, and as you read the novel, you will see that these characteristics are evident in the novel. One of the very important characteristics of the Victorian age was its consciousness of formal moral behavior as it relates to issue of love, courtship, and marriage. The Victorian period was very conscious of morals, was conscious of being formal. It had a particular way of doing things, so it's expected that you follow that way in which things are done. For example, girls were not permitted to meet with a boy without being accompanied with an elderly person. Likewise, a girl cannot leave the house except she takes permission from her mother. Girls were not given the liberty to make decisions. Girls they felt they needed to be controlled and guided by the family. So girls were limited in the decisions they could make. They were limited in the choices they could make. However, during that period, there was something called Industrial Revolution. After the Industrial Revolution, there began a new phase for the women, what we call women emancipation. That is, women were now seeking for a liberation from that cocoon in which they were kept. They were now reading, they were writing, they were schooling, they were getting jobs. As a result of that, they were having more experiences and exposure. As a result of that, they started daring to take up roles in the society. So that's one of the characteristics of the Victorian age that you will find in this novel. Another major characteristic of the Victorian period is class consciousness. Class consciousness. This Victorian age was a very class conscious society. Why? Because everything was centered around the class of a person. In fact, when a person is known after the name, the next thing they want to find out is which class does he belong to in the society. And by that class, we are talking about financial division, financial stratification, social stratification of the society. We are the upper class, we are the middle class, and we are the working class. So the upper class were the very rich, influential, wealthy people. The middle class were the not too poor, not too rich. They were just there. And then the working class are the peasants, the poor people, those who serve the upper class. So they were very conscious about the issue and very rigid in terms of on the subject of class. In fact, the rigidity in terms of class affected the issues of love, courtship, and marriage, because a girl is not permitted to marry somebody who is outside her class. For example, a girl in the upper class is not permitted to marry a boy in a lower class or middle class. Why? Because they were very class conscious. Once she comes home with a man, even just a friend, they already ask him which family does he belong to, because they are very conscious about the fact that are we in the same class. But however, sometimes some of the characters decide to go against the norm, go against the tradition, go against the culture, and try to marry from other culture. For example, a girl in the lower class may decide to marry a boy in the upper class so that she could maybe she's tired of poverty and she wants to enjoy the trappings of the upper class. She wants to move her status. She wants to enjoy wealth. As a result of that, she decides against all odds to marry a boy in the upper class. Such is one of the major themes, the strife that happens, because the family is not going to take it lightly. That no, our boy, you cannot marry from that family. And there is a lot of conflict, a lot of tussle, a lot of issues that happen as a result of that decision of both the boy and the girl to marry each other. And those are the issues that thrive in the novels of the Victorian age. And in fact, that is what Emily Bronte, one of the issues that Emily Bronte treats in this novel. You know, thematically, this novel has, and the Victorian novels, they have issues of love, issues of courtship, issue of marriage. It's always a very vital theme in the novels of the Victorian age. And you see these very strong themes in Wuthering Heights. Structurally, or stylistically, the way in which the novels are written, they are written in the realist form. Realism is close to reality. It's close to the everyday experience. And another major characteristic of this period was the use of the Gothic, or of writing of Gothic fiction. Gothic fiction. Gothic is Gothic. Gothic fiction. This is a kind of fiction that is characterized with the use, characterized with horror, mystery, what we are familiar with in the film as horror films, where you see beasts, where you see people being haunted, when you see Gothic mansions, where you see beasts, where you see ghosts. Things like that are always in Gothic fiction, and Wuthering Heights is an example of a Gothic fiction, where you see, in fact, the buildings have very, very funny designs that are Gothic in look. Also, they contain ghosts, things that will bring about terror, fear. Characters are being haunted. There is movement of spirits and so on like that. So it's also evident in that novel. You will see such things in the novel. The novel is a very fantastic novel that, of course, you might want to find it challenging because of the English, and is not familiar with our context in Nigeria. However, I want to assure you that it's a very fantastic novel that we want you to study, and that's why this video is there, to make your studying much easier. So what I will do in the next edition is that I haven't given you this background to the novel. I will do a chapter by chapter explanation and analysis of the novel. However, don't rely only on this explanation. After the explanation, the goal of this explanation is to make you go back to the book and make your reading easier and more interesting. And based on this explanation, you go to the book, and then you'll be able to read it and understand it better. So please, the next edition will contain chapter 1. Thank you for listening. God bless you.